Welcome to the Verdin Verdict Sports Show. I'm joined by a very special guest, Mr. Jeremiah Gray, G Sports. G, appreciate you coming on. How you been, man?
Man, I've been good, man. Appreciate you for having me.
For sure. So I know a lot of people are wondering, what is there to talk about during a bye week? Well, guess what? We got you covered. We're going to prematurely preview the LSU versus Alabama game. Interesting comparison between 2019 LSU and 2023 LSU between the quarterbacks, wide receivers, and total team stats. We got a little splurge we'll go on between sign stealing and what Matt Rule's supposed change would be to that. But, G, let's start this off. What do you see from LSU versus Army, and what do you think they need to focus on this week?
What I saw against Army, I saw a sense of urgency, not taking your opponent lightly. That's what I kind of was looking for. I was like, man, I wonder if they're going to come out here and just kind of play down to the level of their competition, which they didn't. You saw the sense of urgency and the passion in the pregame. I'm always big on watching pregame warm up. It tells you a lot about a team and if they're down, if they're up, if they're too lax. And I saw it early that they was going to have a good night. Going against a triple option is never easy for any team because you don't usually see that too often, especially in the SEC. So I thought it could give LSU some issues early on, and then they'll figure it out. But they had it figured out from the beginning. The D-line play was phenomenal. I know they had a 100-yard rusher, but Army runs the ball 40 to 50 times a game. So that's not vindicative of LSU D-line play or their defense at all. So I thought their defense showed up in a big way. Offensively, what you see is what you get. This is one of the most potent offenses, if not the most potent offense in all of college football. So, Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas doing what they did was nothing short of impressive. And I think coming off the week against Auburn, you knew that the offense was gonna keep that thing rolling, especially against a team like Army. So I think it was good. I think we can't be a prisoner of the moment and feel that LSU defense has arrived and they figured everything out, because let's not fool ourselves, man. Army is not the best team. Auburn is probably at the bottom of the barrel of the SEC, with a first-year head coach and Hugh Freeze, and so I do think that the LSU their defense has made strides to be better than they've been in the past, these past weeks. But I think that Bama is going to be a true test to see how much better Matt House and the rest of them boys has gotten over the course of these 3 weeks.
Right, and like you said, testing the energy pregame. I remember you in the Florida State game mentioning LSU's lack of energy and just kind of pointing that out. And sure enough, that game transpired into a mess. So my number one takeaway from last week is going to be that the defense did bring that energy. Like you said, they went out, played hard. You seen the clip, Mason Smith going in without a helmet. Dude didn't care. Nobody cared. Andre Sam popped off. Zai Alexander popped off. Speaking about Zai, some unfortunate news that Coach Kelly updated us with. Zai's going to miss some time. Makai's going to miss some time. Makai has the lower body injury. What do you think LSU needs to do going into the Alabama game, losing two key starters? At that cornerback position, you're going to see two true freshmen play. And, the D-line isn't going to be as big of a blow, but when you lose a number 18 in any year for LSU, it definitely changes some things.
Man, it's no secret that Makai Wingo has probably been the most consistent D lineman out of all the interior linemen on that team this year. He has been one of those players on that front that's giving you consistent pressure, with a motor, just a lot of sense of urgency, playing and play out. So not having 18 out there is going to be big for him, especially as a team like Alabama with a quarterback that likes to use his legs and Jalen Milroe. So, I think they'll be able to withstand it at some point, by doing it by committee with Jordan Jefferson, and Tajee Hill came in and had some good moments against Army. Hopefully he can come in and rotate and kind of fill that void. But somebody I want to see get an opportunity in this Alabama game, man, to be able to help this front out is Quincy Williams. I think he's somebody they've been having on the show these last 2 years who's haven't gotten the opportunity that he deserves. I know he was late to a few meetings and things like that early on in the season before the season started, which is why he probably didn't travel to Orlando for the Florida State game. But I think, he's a kid that has the passion, has the length, the athleticism to be able to help this front out. So I would love to see him get an opportunity next Saturday down there in Tuscaloosa, man, to kind of make his presence felt. And
Yeah.
then when you talk about the secondary, man, losing Zay Alexander is big because he had a rocky start at the beginning of the season. He just didn't look comfortable. It looked like the SEC was probably a little big of a moment for him, but he's been playing really well over the last 2 to 3 weeks, preferably after the Ole Miss game. The Missouri game is when he kind of started taking strides to be a better player. So I was excited to see him, continue to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? So not having him is going to be huge. I know Kelly said they're going to have Micah Hughes and Latarius Welch. Toviano, they moved Toviano back from safety to corner, which is, that's another true freshman. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys show up on that stage, man, in Tuscaloosa. When you're going against somebody like Jermaine Verdin, and down there in that kind of atmosphere. So it's a concern. I think LSU's offense could kind of put a Band-Aid on it a little bit just because, Bama's offense isn't the best that we've seen in the past. So they might be able to get away with it, down there in Tuscaloosa on next Saturday, bro.
Yeah, and especially seeing, like you said, LT, Welch, even Ashton Stamp's going to be out there. I think, as weird as this might sound, this could be a blessing in disguise. When you got an inexperienced cornerback room, these reps and these big moments, I don't think anything gets bigger than Tuscaloosa in the SEC West during prime time, especially when it's a top 15 matchup. So these guys could really grow, and they could benefit from this experience. And going forward, that room's just going to continuously get better and better and better. I think this could be a pretty big test for them. And like you said about the offensive matchup, yeah, we're going to win, I think, almost every offensive comparison. If you were to compare, we're number one in total yards, number one in points. I think Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, even Kyron Lacey, all these guys have been exploding, foaming at the mouth for the football and points. And what do you think about the wide receiver room's development and just what they've been able to do and how they've been able to just explode all over college football?
I mean, LSU wide receivers are living up to that standard. Wide receiver Cortez Hankton is doing a phenomenal job with that room. Getting those guys to take that next step in their careers. Brian Thomas, we knew what he was coming out of high school, but early on we were saying, can he figure it out? Malik Neighbors, we know how good he was coming out of high school, but when he got to LSU, it was a lot of question marks. Could he, be a guy at LSU? And they proved it this year, man. Every time they got the opportunities, they made the most of it. Seeing Kyron Lacey overcome those drops in that Florida State game and then come have a game like he did against Auburn, having his first 100-yard receiving game of his career, with a tutty, and just some big explosive plays. I think now you're starting to think about how that 2019 team was with Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Terrace Marshall. It's looking like something similar to what these three receivers are doing. And then when you add somebody like Mason Taylor, who people forget about, I think Mason Taylor, at tight end, man, he gets kind of forgotten in that passing game. But Mason Taylor is a really, really big player for LSU, and he's a matchup nightmare in my opinion. And so I just think this receiving core is going to continue to get better. And then don't talk about when Aaron Anderson figures it out. When he figures it out, that makes that offense probably unstoppable because he brings a different dynamic because he's so good in space. He could put that foot in the ground and take it 80 and hit his head on a goalpost, man. Now you're striking up the band, quickly because he's that kind of a player. But, he hasn't played football in over a year. People got to remember, man, this is Aaron's first time playing football since high school. So, he's got to figure some things out. He didn't play in the spring. He didn't get cleared, I think, like a week till fall camp. So, I think this could possibly – and then you got to realize he's going back to Tuscaloosa. That's where he transferred from. So I know it's going to be a chip on his shoulder to prove to Saban and those guys over there that, look, y'all missed out on me and didn't value me when I was here. Now I'm going to show you guys what you're missing. So I just think this receiving coach they have all the makings to continue to put up big numbers and possibly lead this team to an SEC championship.
Yeah, the numbers are beautiful. If you looked at them statistically and you even compared them to the legendary, goated 2019 undefeated national championship team, if you look at their points per game in 2019, they were a little bit over 48. This year, we're a little bit over 47. Their pass yards in 19 was a little bit over 400. We're floating around the 339-yard per game mark. But rushing yards per game is where we take the cake. They got 166.8. We got 213 yards per game. I think definitely the big difference is going to be the mobility of Jaden Daniels, his ability to extend the play, and quite frankly, the plethora of running backs that they have. You saw last week, 3 touchdowns, 3 different running backs. Then you still got guys like Caleb Jackson. You still got the Josh Williams. I think Coach Frank has really developed that room as well. The wide receiver duo stats, Neighbors and Thomas are combining for 20 touchdowns, 1,713 yards. Jay Jettas and Jamar Chase at this point in the season in 2019 had 19 touchdowns, 1,708 yards. So it's interesting when you look on paper, Neighbors and Thomas collectively going against Jettas and Chase, and they're going toe-to-toe. Yeah, years are different, and Chase and Jettas had, Edwards, like you said, Terrence Marshall. They had some guys in there as well. But I think LSU, we've got a lot of talent sprinkled in there, and this could potentially be, when it's all said and done, one of the better offenses. You got another Heisman potential quarterback, Jaden Daniels versus Joe Burrow stats. Joe had him in the passing yards, a little over 2,800. Jaden Daniels has 2,573. Completion percentage is pretty similar. Joe's through 8 games, 79%. Jaden's 73%. 25 passing touchdowns for Jaden, 30 passing touchdowns for Joe. But here's where the things change up quite a bit. Rushing yards, Joe Burrow 125, Jaden Daniels 521. 2 more rushing touchdowns at 5 for Jaden than Joe Burrow's 3. So I think that X factor of Jaden being able to get out the pocket, go down the field, it could really, help them push past that 2019 mark in a way of they're a lot more explosive on the offensive side. Yeah, the defensive side's a lot different. That's a whole nother rabbit hole we could dive down. But what do you think about 2019 versus 2023 and just all the hype that's building up around this offense?
We kind of expected this coming into the season, right? We talked about it. Just talking to some of the people in that building down there in Baton Rouge and talking to some of the players, and me being at a lot of those practices, man, and knowing the makeup of this team, I felt like this team had some similarity to that 2019 team. When you talk about the receiving core, when you talk about the offensive line, when you talk about the quarterback play. Yeah, Joe Burrow, when he first got to LSU, we was all saying, why did we even take this guy from Ohio State, right? When Jaden Daniels got here last year, we were saying the same thing. Why did we get this guy from Arizona State? And you just knew that they were going to put in the time in the offseason to take the game to another level, which they did. Brian Kelly talked about in the press conference that they had to change the restrictions of how much time they could spend in the building. And it was because Jaden Daniels wanted to be in the building and watch film and work on different things that he needed to get better at, being in the building till 4, 5 in the morning. That lets me know that this guy's all in. He wants to, live up to that standard at LSU, and that's, competing for championships and competing for to be one of the top quarterbacks in college football. And he's showing that, bro. And I was very critical of Jaden Daniels. I'm glad he's proved me wrong and a lot of other people wrong. But I do think this team has all the makeup to surpass offensively, not defensively. Offensively, they have all the tools and the makeup to surpass what that 2019 team did offensively. We still got about 5 games left in the regular season. If you add the SEC championship, and then if you add a 14 playoff, the numbers could be crazy when we look back at it at the end of the season. So I do think the 2019 team could be surpassed offensively by this team.
Yeah, and shout out to Mike Denbrock and Coach Joe Sloan and even Jaden Daniels for putting in that extra work and just finding the right stride for this team to hit. It seems like every week they just keep putting up more and more points over and over and over. Every single time the offense gets on the field, you're expecting 7 points. And
no doubt.
Anything other than 7 sometimes feels like a letdown for LSU fans. But, like you said, with people calling out Jaden Daniels and LSU fans at times being fickle on picking quarterbacks and just picking, is this guy it? Is this guy it? I think that the coaching staff Brian Kelly's put in, they've been really good at identifying talent. And, sometimes it's rough. Like, last year the offensive line took about 6 weeks to figure it out. But once they figured it out, this could probably be one of the better offensive lines in the country. So Coach Kelly's got a pretty good staff on hand. And it's crazy to, like you said, be there at the practices and just witness this whole thing coming together as quickly as it did in the past 2 years. It's eerily similar to what Jay Johnson did with baseball, what Kim Mulkey did with women's basketball. LSU is handling business right now.
Gymnastics.
The whole 9 yards, they're going crazy. But we'll kind of talk about this one I found interesting. I know I sent you the link on Twitter. We got Matt Rule talking about, the investigation going on with Michigan and Jim Harbaugh and the potential sign stealing and whatnot. And his answer and his fix to all the madness would be give us the headsets, give us the technology. You see high school sports implement it. Of course, the NFL implements technology almost weekly at this point. But college football has kind of been left in the dust, so to speak. So what do you think about that? What could headsets do to the college football game? Could it be better? Could it be worse?
It can like I don't see how this could do nothing but improve college football and the quarterback play as they transition into as they transition into the NFL. Matt Rule made a good point. When you get to the league, you have a headset in your helmet and they're calling three different plays out. In college, you just going off signs. So the maturation process and being able to process, what coverage they in, change the protection, what plays you got to get these guys in. It's a lot for a quarterback to come in and learn early on. And that's why you see so many busts coming to the NFL. It takes a certain type of player to be able to come in and be able to process all that and learn it, what a headset and all the different nuances that go with playing quarterback in the NFL. So I think adding headsets would definitely help out the quarterback play, and I think you will see more quarterbacks coming ready to play in year one for sure, year two, if you add headsets to college football, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get worried whenever new technology comes around and, new rule changes come in football or any sport, really. They're worried if the game's going to change, and you got a lot of the old heads like, oh, no, we want it the same, we want it the same. I agree with you on this one. This is only going to help the product. The college football game is going to improve greatly. The players are going to improve greatly, and with the quarterback being able to process the information and smoothly transition over at the pro level, you'll also see that of wide receivers as well, because the transitions and the audibles and the communication on the field, that affects everybody from skill positions to offensive line, and sometimes it could even make the coach's job better. So the entire landscape of college football changing isn't necessarily bad. Right now college football is in a huge era of change anyway. You got the college football playoff about to expand. The SEC is going to change some things up. Rip to the Pac-12. That's going to be crazy, but college football is definitely switching things up. I think this would be another very good addition, very good change, and like you said, it's only helping.
I think that we got to be to evolve with the times, bro. We can't just stay stuck in the '90s and the early 2000s, man. We got to continue to evolve this game and put these players in better position to be successful when they leave college, bro. And if adding headsets is gonna help these quarterbacks out, man, why not do that? The stealing of the signs, I think, is a little overrated. Man, look, I personally think it goes on way more than we know. High school, college, this is going on a lot. I've heard this so many times. So, when people try to publicize it and make a big deal about it in the media, to me, it's like, all right, this goes on all the time. In my mind, I feel like you can know what play I'm calling. Can you stop it? If I got a good team and I'm confident in what we do, you can know what play I'm calling. You don't know. It's so many like if I'm passing the ball, there's so many different progressions I can go through, or I can check, or it's so many different things that gotta go right for you to be able to steal my signs, know what play we calling, you getting the right defense, and y'all execute it at a high level. Like so many things have to go right for that to happen. So I just think the stealing of the signs thing is a little overblown. Don't get me wrong, I do kind of look at you a little shady for wanting to steal the signs, but I don't think it's a big deal like that. I think they making this way too blown out of proportion, in my opinion.
What do you think happens with Coach Harbaugh? You think he's going to take a suspension? You think, I'm pretty sure this year he started off with 3-4 games suspension, self-inflicted from Michigan. Do you think he's going to have to undergo another one? What do you think is going to be this disciplinary process the NCAA tries to lay on him?
Well, anybody that knows me, man, I've been a Michigan fan since I've been 8 years old. So this is kind of hurting me to the core to see, win a hunt to compete for a national championship. We about to get probably a self-imposed ban or whatever the case about to be for Jim Harbaugh and his university. So I think that he's going to either do a self-imposed ban for himself, or the university is going to do it. Like I see, the NCAA probably suspending him, man, 3 to 4 games and probably giving him a big fine. So hopefully they do it now so he doesn't miss the game against Ohio State, but we'll see.
Yeah, Interesting. For sure, gonna have to follow up on that. But before we get out of here, I do this at the end of every show. We got the top 3 games, in my opinion, of the week. We're gonna make our picks. We're gonna try to just see who's gonna be out on top. So 3 games for this week. We got Oregon and Utah. That's always going to be interesting. That's probably 2 of the better teams in the Pac-12 right now. You saw Utah get their big win versus USC last week. Of course, a couple weeks ago, Oregon kept it close with Washington, which is another top offense. And hell, I think Oregon's offense is another top offense because a couple weeks ago you saw that they were the only team to be ranked in the top 10 passing and rushing wise besides LSU. So, I mean, if right now, at this point in time, if you're being mentioned with LSU's offense, I feel like you're sitting pretty good. Utah does have a great defense, but I might lean towards Oregon on this one. I mean, I don't know. How are you feeling about this?
I really like Oregon. I really like what they've done with Bo Nix. When he was at Auburn, man, this guy was a gunslinger. He was a high-risk, high-reward kind of player. You have an outstanding play, and then he'll come back and have a bad play. Kind of equivalent to when he came to LSU on the road and upsetted them. Was out there playing backyard football like he was Brett Favre or whatnot. But since he's been at Oregon, man, he's done a great job. I mean, 19 touchdowns, 1 interception for over 2,000 yards, bro. I mean, you can't deny what Bo Nix has done with that offense at Oregon. So, and then they're running the ball real good with the kid Irvin. So, and their defense is showing up. Utah, watching them how they played against Florida, and watching them throughout this season, it's going to be, I think it's going to come down to like the last possession of the game. But if I had to pick, I probably will go with the home team, which is Utah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I do agree. Definitely another close game. It seems like Utah is able to keep it close with everyone. They're a reigning Pac-12 champion, so they're bringing that moxie. So, I mean, I could definitely see Utah squeaking out with it, but I'm leaning on Oregon just with that firepower.
It's a hostile environment.
It is. Them Utes bring it. Another hostile environment, of course, Florida. We got Florida versus Georgia, classic rivalry game. And believe it or not, last regular season loss for Georgia was in 2020 versus Florida. It's looking like Billy Napier's not necessarily in the hot seat, but a lot of people are unhappy with what's going on. And this could be his opportunity to flip the script. What do you think about Florida's chances against Georgia? How's that going to go?
I'm a little biased, man, because, I've been following Billy Napier since he was at Alabama, and when he left Alabama and went to Arizona State, and then he got hired at UL, and just watching him, how he built that UL program and the relationships he built and just who he is as a person and how he goes about coaching these guys, I think that Billy Napier is on the right track, man, to get that Florida team and that Florida program where it needs to be. Georgia struggled with, what was it?
Auburn.
They struggled with somebody else too. Like they had like 2 games where they struggled early on. I think it might have been South Carolina. That's what it was, South Carolina. So South Carolina and Auburn gave Georgia all they can handle. I mean, you would have thought that Auburn was a top team in the country the way they looked. You would have thought South Carolina was a top team in the country the way they looked playing against Georgia. So, I would like to think that Florida is better than both of those teams. And, Florida beat South Carolina at their place before their bye week. I like the way Mertz is playing for Florida. He's been looking really, really good since the beginning of the season, the transfer from Wisconsin. So if he has a good game and doesn't turn the ball over, I think that, Florida could possibly pull off an upset here.
Yeah, and they pulled off the upset at home when Tennessee came by, and I didn't see Tennessee losing that one at all. So I'm in a tough spot here because Georgia, Florida, like we said, last regular season loss for the Bulldogs is in 2020. If I'm Billy Napier, that's bulletin board material. I'm preaching that all week, guys. We got to go in here, put a little damper on their 3 years in a row being the number 1 team in college football. The only thing that scares me here is that when you're the number 1 team in college football for that long, you're recruiting and you're pulling in all the best transfer portal talent, and the talent comparison is definitely off. However, battle of coaching, home field advantage, there's a lot of things that can be potential X factors in this matchup. I think it'll be pretty close, but more than likely, I think Georgia might squeak out of here with that one. As much as I would love Florida to beat Georgia, I don't know, man.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sold on Carson Beck for Georgia. I'm just not sold on him. He doesn't look like a quarterback that's going to be able to lead this team to a national championship this year. I think he's going to end up costing Georgia at some point. Will it be against Florida? I don't know. Will it be in the SEC championship? Will it be against Ole Miss? I don't know. But I don't believe in him. I think that he's a serviceable quarterback. And I think this Georgia defense isn't dominant like we've seen over the last 4 to 5 years. And with that being said, I just think that Florida is going to come into this game a huge underdog. They're playing in a neutral site in Jacksonville. So which is essentially a home game for Florida. I just think that Mertz will be able to put this team in a position to win. And if they can run the ball with Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne, two boot boys, by the way, you know, if they could run the ball with those guys, I think you see Graham Mertz have a 300-yard passing game and possibly put this team on upset alert on Saturday at 2:30.
And big underdog is right. Vegas right now has the spread at 14.5, and Georgia money line is negative 600. So that, I mean, look, I would take Florida plus 14.5 on that all day, money line wise. I would rather be safe than sorry, but I definitely do think that if there is a game that Georgia's dropping this season, I would mark my calendars and make it this one. It's a tough environment. It's probably one of their more rough games that they've played here in recent memory. Moving on to another SEC East showdown. We got Tennessee and Kentucky. I think Kentucky started off really good this year, but last 2 weeks, I mean, they just ran into a buzzsaw. They played Mizzou, they played Georgia, and got absolutely stomped. This is their third tough divisional game in a row. This can go two ways. You could be a little burnout, you could be a little down in the dumps, all the confidence and morale of the team could be a little rough, or y'all could turn things around and say, man, we're tired of this, let's go out here and perform. What do you think about Kentucky and Tennessee, what they've shown you so far, and what's going to happen as this SEC East race shaped up?
I think that's going to be a really, really good game. It's just simple for me. Watching Kentucky play this year, the running back Ray Davis, if you could stop him from busting loose and being able to, have those explosive plays, Tennessee will win the game. If they let Ray Davis, hit 4 and 5 yards of carry and hit you for explosive plays here and hit you for explosive plays there, it's gonna be a long day for Tennessee because now, the Kentucky quarterback Devin Leary, he's not a world beater, but once he has that running game going, they start using the play action. Now they're being able to be a balanced team. So that's going to be the key for Tennessee. Tennessee's the better team. We know that. We know that. Joe Milton, I like him. Even though he's had his ups and downs this season, I like him. He's a quarterback that I feel like is a second or third round pick type of talent. And we know what Josh Heupel does as a play caller over there. He's going to put Tennessee in position to be successful all the time on offense. So I think that's the key. If they can stop the running game of Ray Davis, Tennessee should win this game by a landslide. I think they win this game by 2 possessions or more if they can stop the running game.
Yeah, that Kentucky running game is a lights out. I think Kentucky's been putting it on the ground, arguably just as good as any SEC team. But Tennessee, Joe Milton, definitely want to start things fast. They definitely want to not get behind. I wouldn't want to put Joe Milton in a situation where he's got to try to, have the pressure turn into diamonds here on Saturday. I think that the best bet for Tennessee is to start things fast, hit them where it hurts. When you're playing the running game, when you're playing a running defense, my best advice for the offense would be chew the clock, put them in a situation where they're not going to be able to run all the time. They're going to have to open up that playbook. They're going to have to dig deep, do some things that they weren't necessarily comfortable with doing. Hopefully Tennessee's going to be able to, prove me right here and get it done and not lay an egg. There's been a couple times throughout our top 3 games of the week predictions where we've gone out and rode somebody that just flat out wheels fell off. But I'm thinking Tennessee.
And Ray Davis is he's averaging 7 yards a carry. I mean, bro, dude been toting that pill this year.
Dude could almost get a first down in one stride.
Exactly.
Well, I think it'll be an interesting week. We don't have any game going on. LSU's not going to be getting active. We got to wait another week. November 4th, LSU, Alabama. We'll have more coverage coming your way for that. G, thanks for stopping by, man. It's always great to have you. Always great to talk with a great sports mind like yourself.
Appreciate you, man. I'll come on anytime.
For sure. If you want to, let us know anything you got coming up going forward or plug your socials or whatnot, just go ahead.
Yeah, man. Follow me on Twitter, G_sports. That's sports with a Z on the end. And if you're on Instagram, man, you can follow my Instagram, man. There's an _G Sports with a Z on the end, man.
Y'all give him a follow. Make sure to follow us on social media as well. Links in the description. We'll throw his links in the description as well. Thanks for watching. This has been the Verdin Verdict.